we'll start the conversation by talking about a resource you may or may not already be aware of. But if you haven't, this will be good information. The Meyer Rec Barn. Has anyone used the gym on campus, or are you familiar with it at all at this point? I see some yeses, I see some nos. Okay. Sam, I'm going to go ahead and pull up a location map if you want to launch into talking about the Rec Barn a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. If you know Ali Tartaglia, Ali and I went down before the start of term and moved some machines around and some equipment in the Rec Barn to make it as safe as possible. The good news is we only had to put away, I believe, one machine total out of the entire Rec Barn. So most of what is normally offered, there it is, number 19 down there past buildings and grounds. Most of what is normally offered down in the Rec Barn is still offered. I would say the largest piece that is offline currently is the climbing wall, for obvious reasons, I think. That will come back online as safety restrictions and guidelines are lifted. But until then, that is off limits. Other than that, from ellipticals to treadmills to weightlifting equipment, it's all down there, and we're trying to just keep it as clean and as safe as possible so you can use it even during while having the guidelines that we currently have. So hopefully your experience has been overwhelmingly positive if you've used it thus far. And if not, I encourage you to just check it out. And if you have any feedback on how it could be better or anything like that, feel free to email myself or Ali Tartaglia, and we can help make it, continue to make it as positive as possible for you. The hours are 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. every single night, even on weekends. So every day it's open most of the day.
Yeah. Good thing to know when you do go to the Rec Barn, in an effort to, well, for all kinds of reasons, but predating anything COVID, plan to bring your own water bottle. There are generally not water cups there, but there are water coolers that are cleaned regularly. That's more of a sustainability initiative than anything, but definitely bring your own water bottle. Also remember your student ID. An easy thing to forget, but for all kinds of reasons, of it including tracking the usage of the Meyer Rec Barn, we do ask for a card scan before making use, just so that we have a record of who's in and out. Beyond that, it really is whatever you want that space to be. As Sam said, it does have a climbing wall that is currently down, but treadmills, bikes, free weight, selectorized cable machines, the aerobic room, those are all open and available to you 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day of the week. Peak times, as you would imagine, are probably more evenings than mornings. So if you're a morning person, it's a really nice time to be in there and take advantage of that space. The lighting's also really lovely in the morning, so that would be highly recommended. The other thing I'll say about the Rec Barn too, and this is a pretty great opportunity if you weren't familiar with yet, is that we do gear rentals at the college. Gear rentals kind of wax and wane based on time of year and season. Right now, a few options that would probably be really exciting things to latch onto if you have any interest, even if it's in your own backyard on campus, is tents, sleeping bags, ground pads, kayaks, mess kits, camping stoves, tarps, all kinds of outdoor recreation equipment. There, to my knowledge, at this point, is no fee for students, though as it says at the bottom, when emailing Ali Tartaglia, a good idea to give her a little lead time because she needs to pull all that gear together for your use. But a really awesome thing to take advantage of as we get into the cooler autumn weather. There's no reason you couldn't pitch a tent over the end of the world. I think we'd all be pretty cool with that, and I've seen it happen a lot. Or if you're looking for other camping opportunities locally and regionally, there are some great Vermont state parks that are within about a half-hour drive from here that are easily accessed through a quick Gmail or a Google search. So definitely be on the lookout for those. Things that aren't listed here right now, though, that I also want to mention, we also have access to. We are in Vermont. So theoretically speaking, we do have a winter and we do have snow. We do have cross-country skis and snowshoes available for rental also. So as we get more into December, or when we get back from field work term, and we definitely have snow on campus at that point, those are really free for your use as you want. And it's just as simple as emailing Allie to get the right information to her to set you up with that equipment. Last but not least, I would also say if there's equipment that you're looking for that you wish we had in the Meyer Rec Barn for rental purposes, Allie is your primary go-to, but either Sam or I will work hard in order to pay that information forward. In terms of safe, fun, low stress, anxiety reducing resources we could provide, recreation and athletics equipment is kind of the perfect check mark for most everything. So let us know. We want to work with you to make that stuff more successful. Moving on from the Meyer Rec Barn, I think it's probably pretty important to talk about the different levels of engagement from intramurals, clubs, and athletics on campus. Sam will give you a rundown of some of the groups that he's worked with really closely over the years and kind of the status of those groups. And also, just so you're aware right now, at the conclusion of this conversation today, we'll be in touch probably within a week, both to follow up on the survey results that you filled out, but we'll also have a hard copy version of all this information. So if you're not the type of person that does well in quickly taking notes, because we're kind of flying through this stuff, you'll actually have resources in hand and on your computer you can reference throughout the rest of term and into next year. So Sam, if you want to talk a little bit about some of the intramurals and athletic clubs, that'd be awesome.
Absolutely. So we actually have, I don't know if it's surprising to any of you, but it's surprising to other people from outside the college how much we actually have as far as intramurals and club sports. Obviously, again, with the COVID restrictions that we have, we're pretty limited as to what we can do, but we are improvising every day and trying to do as much as possible. So I'll just sort of start with like what we normally offer and what we generally have on campus. So normally we've got a club soccer team that plays generally 5 to 8 games a term. Other schools traveling to other schools and having other schools come and playing us. The soccer team is one really good, but also open to any skill level. So if you just want to have fun playing soccer and you haven't played that much, you can join the team. And also if you've played soccer all through high school and you're looking for something that's still pretty competitive, that's another great outlet. It can really cater to all levels. So that it's a really fun club, a great team. And last year, I want to say we only lost 1 game. But it's fun, super fun. We also have an ultimate Frisbee club that competes in tournaments throughout the year, generally more in the spring. But they have regular practices. They're the Bennington Vermonsters.
Vermonster, yeah.
Yeah, and Vermonster, yeah. And they've got a winner, and so the soccer team has jerseys. The Ultimate Frisbee Club has jerseys. It's really fun. And again, all levels can come out to practice. Both of these things have practices normally all throughout the week. And then usually for the soccer team, games on the weekends, and for Ultimate Frisbee, scrimmages, but then also tournaments in the spring. We had a intramural basketball team start to actually grow and travel last year. Started traveling to other schools to play, and was a blast. And we'll continue that. For these 3 currently, not really doing much in the way of activity at the moment, just to keep everything safe. Soccer, I definitely recommend checking out the soccer field if you haven't seen it, but also you can totally go kick a ball around. We're asking no scrimmages, just to avoid close distance, trying to maintain social distance, so like no defense. And also we're really trying to limit everyone's hands touching the different equipment, so touching the balls or the Frisbees. So that's why Frisbee right now, not doing anything formal. Basketball, if you haven't seen the outdoor basketball court, it's next to the soccer field near the tennis courts, which we'll also talk about. And it is gorgeous, especially around sunset. It's a great place to even go and read, to go and work on a project, to go just to hang out. It's one of my favorite places on campus. It's a little bit of a sanctuary for sure, just because it's so gorgeous up on a hill. So you want to play basketball, we're asking one person per ball at the moment, but there is some talk about some competitions happening later this term that may be more like shooting competitions and sort of one person at a time skill kind of stuff. So be on the lookout for that, because that may appear sooner than later. And in the document that Matt was talking about, the resource, we'll have contacts for these. So if you are interested in soccer, in basketball, in ultimate, and any of the things that we mentioned as we go forward, we'll have contacts for those. So you can reach out and just say, hey, can you keep me posted for when this is going to start? Obviously, we'll put up posters and there'll be things in coffee hour minutes, but just to keep you informed. It's also good to connect with folks if you're interested in those things. Connect with folks who are also interested. We have a great dodgeball following on campus. I think in 2006, the Princeton Review rated Bennington as #2 in the country for most likely to be dodgeball targets. And Matt and I were actually students then. And that really invigorated the student body to make a dodgeball club. And happy to say that it is very healthy and active today. So dodgeball will be happening periodically. We're working through some of the safety protocols now, but probably either on the soccer field, most likely, and maybe occasionally on Commons Lawn, but most likely on the soccer field. And that's the thing where wearing gloves, if it happens to hit somebody in the face, you got to stop the game, sanitize the ball. So these are sort of the things that we're thinking about when thinking about these recreational activities at the moment as far as sports on campus. But I want to give you a good scope of what also normally happens here, because it's pretty awesome and it's pretty robust. So be on the lookout for dodgeball, and I'm sure there's plenty of information coming very soon for that. There are also a number of recreational clubs that were started by students. And Matt and I talked about this last week, but wanting to start a club, if there's a sport or an activity that you're really interested in that we don't currently offer, you can actually propose that through the Budget and Events Committee and turn that into a club. And that's how a number of things have come up. So volleyball club started that way. A student wanted to start a volleyball club, so we had a volleyball club. There you go. Club ideas, student engagement at bennington.edu. Boxing club. We have got a great crew that like to box out of the rec barn when we can safely. That started from student interest. Archery club started with student interest. So all of these things started because one student said, hey, I want to do this thing. And it grew into a formal club. So that's really cool. We also have an awesome equestrian team that they ride horses at a farm in North Bennington, so it's just off campus. But that is also something, if you are interested in trying to ride for the first time, you can go. And also, if you have been riding horses most of your life, you also have a blast. And they have a bunch of ribbons to show off from competitions. And it's a really, really great inclusive group with the equestrian club. So again, that point of contact will be in the document that we'll share. Hopefully more yoga activities will be happening, those types of recreation, as we are able to be distanced outside. And then as it gets colder, we're going to have to, we'll figure out some ways to make it happen as well. But there are some nice big indoor spaces that we may be able to use with proper distancing for that type of stuff. Any questions thus far about any of those activities or other activities? Did you learn something? Awesome. That's all we're trying to do, is trying to just like hip you to some of the things that they're going on here.
I feel like that's a question people should just ask more generally.
Yeah.
Did you learn something? No? Okay, we won't do that again.
We won't do that ever again. Yeah.
That didn't land. Okay. Briefly, I'll also mention too, there are 3 new clubs that are athletic and recreation based that actually have started this calendar year, which is to say this fall. Among them and groups you should definitely know about, one is the Powerlifting Club. And actually in the room right now, we have the club rep. Would you mind saying a few words about the club? Oh no, you might be muted. Maybe.
Hold on. Is this better? Can you guys hear me now?
Awesome.
Cool. So I started the powerlifting club this year, and currently we work out in the gym. Well, there's 3 people in there right now, and it's me and Jonah, and then there's Katie. And Katie likes to work out on her own time just because, like we don't really, like our schedules don't match. But typically we're in there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We have Thursday off, and then we do Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and we're in there typically from 5 to 7. So if you guys want to stop by and train with us, then that's fine. I'll tell you more about the group. We plan on competing at this next powerlifting meet, which should be in November 17th.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. So yes, and alongside powerlifting, cross-country running is new for this fall. Also burgeoning, but very much happening as of this morning, is a fencing club. So kind of before we transition into the next section, I'll say quickly too, if you have ideas for clubs or organizations that you want to see happen that don't exist right now, Bennington is a school that is hyper receptive and interested in working with you to see how we can make it a growing, breathing, thriving thing. Fencing club, we actually started probably in 2014. At that time, fencing did not exist on campus. It was simply in the hands of a couple students who'd been very active in high school that wanted to see something come together. And then through, I guess you could say, campus-wide finagling, but really direct interaction with the Student Life Office to pool resources, the use of the Budget and Events Committee, which is a student-level committee that allocates funds to clubs, they were able to secure thousands and thousands of dollars of fencing gear, be NCAA accredited, compete regionally, win ribbons, kind of go that far over the course of a year and a half, from never having had fencing on campus to having it again. The group took a break for a while after senior leadership deviated, but as of this fall, we have a new student crew that sounds like it'll be at least 11 students interested in rebuilding the fencing group. So we're in the process of helping get them running again. And again, if that's something that interests you, let Sam Clement or I know, and we'll do whatever we can to put you in contact with the right students. I don't even think you'll see that on the club roster yet. That's how new it is. But it'll be represented probably by this afternoon. Okay, so at this point, we're going to transition to recreation and athletic opportunities that take you off campus. So obviously, it's nice to take advantage of resources at the Rec Barn, basketball court, tennis court. There's 500 plus acres on campus. You'd be hard pressed not to find something to do within that space. But it's also really good to know that within really even a 5-minute walk from campus, there's some really wonderful hiking and biking trails that go for miles and kind of take you all through North Bennington as far as Shaftesbury, Vermont, which is our next town proper, just north of North Bennington. Sam, if you want to talk a little bit about Lake Paran, I guess to start with, I'll find and get the maps uploaded.
Yeah, so has anybody been to Lake Paran yet? Yes? Yeah, some have. Cool. Yeah, it's a really, really small but beautiful lake that's very close to campus, very walkable. Great for swimming, great for hanging out on the beach. Also, you may see in the wintertime, a friend of ours named Stu takes his ski sailboat out on the lake and sails on the ice with like a ski blade on the bottom of the boat or something. It's pretty cool. But that's in the wintertime. It's also, I don't know if if anybody here is into fishing at all, but it's a pretty incredible place to fish for being a little body of water. There's some very, very large fish in there. But it's, there we go on the map. So if you leave campus, go through North Bennington, it's, I won't fully describe it here because it'll be kind of funny trying to dictate using this little map, but other people know, and some folks in this room have been. Yeah, and yes, you can skate on Lake Paran. I would absolutely advise you to make sure the ice is thick enough, and maybe seeing other people do it first is a good bet, but it does freeze over fairly easily. It's not a deep lake at all, so it gets frozen, and it gets frozen pretty thick. So yes, you can skate. Hence talking about the guy who takes his boat out on it on the ice. Yeah, it's really, really beautiful. There's also a trail that goes all the way around it, so you can do a little hike all the way around the lake. And again, as Matt said, it's really close to campus, so that's really cool. And especially like come spring when it starts to get warm out, or next year when you come back in the fall and we're still at the end of summer. It's a really, really beautiful place to swim and hang. And I'll reiterate, like all times of year, it's beautiful. Walking there and just hanging out is great. Have folks walked around like the mode trails around campus? Have you been around those yet? Some have, yeah. If you haven't, I recommend that. I currently live in I was going to say in Lake Paran, in Paran Creek. And I very often will walk those trails around campus. You can see the mode trails. They're past the end of the world. They're past the soccer field. They're sort of around the outskirts of the tree line. And you can kind of pick different routes each time you go to take different routes around campus and just get a lay of the land. And they're really nice. It's something that's on campus. It's kind of a nice hike, but there are quite a few hikes off campus as well. And I guess if we're going to move just a bit further than Lake Paran, but really not much further at all, we can segue to the Mile Round Woods. Does everyone know, or does anyone know, have heard of the Mile Round Woods or Park McCullough House? Yeah, you've heard of this? Cool. So another short walk from campus, you go down the big hill in the back of campus where Pangea Restaurant is on your left, and you just keep going straight through the intersection. And there's a big mansion on your left, and it's the Park McCullough House. And actually, long ago, the Jennings family, so Jennings Music Building, family that lived there, and the Park McCullough family were like the two big families in North Bennington. And the trees weren't the way they are now, and you could actually see the Park McCullough House from Jennings and see Jennings from the Park McCullough House. Kind of cool. But by the Park McCullough House, you've got a number of trails, one of which is about a mile long loop that goes through the woods. And there are some beautiful horses around there. It's one of the most beautiful walks that I think I've ever been on, because not only can you do that, but also instead of going on the trail, you can take a right and walk up on like really vast hills that overlook the whole area, and take a guitar up there during a sunset, whatever. It's like gorgeous. It's gorgeous. So highly recommend checking out those trails as well. And then we have a number of trails. There's the Ninja Trail that starts sort of near campus and can take you, Matt, like all the way into town, right?
Yep. It'll take you all the way into town. I think so if I just pulled up the campus trail map again, if you can follow my mouse cursor, if we're on campus right now and you see a little bike widget, you'll take College Drive all the way down to where it meets the road on 67. You can cross the intersection with a little crosswalk path, and as you can see, this red trail, while still in construction, will connect you all the way to 67, about 3 miles further down the way. And then there are actually a series of paths just off the road that will again connect you directly to downtown Bennington. So almost without having to deal with any direct car or otherwise traffic, you can be at the center of downtown. Not that there's a crazy amount going on downtown right now, let me clarify. But if you like to bike around and you like to get to know town at your own pace, biking is a really awesome way to do it. To that end also, for anyone who may have interest in biking, if you weren't aware, Campus Safety rents bikes for free. You can just drop by and request a bicycle. I don't know what their current terms are, but I want to say it's up for at least 12 hours at a time, which would be more than enough time to bike around Bennington proper and get it back. They will provide locks if you want. They will provide bike helmets. Again, you just drop by Campus Safety and let them know that you're interested in making use of the bike share program, and they can set you up. But the other thing I wanted to mention quickly is the larger extension of bike trails that actually exist in Bennington as part of a more proper outdoor mountain biking path. So if we're looking at Bennington College here up in the upper left quadrant, if we head straight down due south, you'll end up in this territory here, which is the former host site of Southern Vermont College. Outside of that building and that space being absolutely astonishingly beautiful and worth taking a trip to just to see it, there are miles and miles of professionally graded and prepared and maintained mountain biking trail that are totally free to the public. It's operated by a young group known as BAT, Bennington Area Trail System, and they source grants locally, regionally, and nationally to continue upkeep and to grow these bike paths to be as good as they possibly can be, with a small crew of hands. So again, if you're interested in biking at all, I would highly recommend getting more information. Happy to link you out on anything around bats that you would need. But for anyone with even a moderate level of experience with biking, these trails are really, really nice. So know that that's an option. Last but not least, and we'll share you with this map so you have it for your own benefit, one other biggie that I would probably highlight, if we scroll over to number 6, is the White Rocks. Per the description here, White Rocks is located in the Glastonbury Wilderness area of the Green Mountain National Forest, so it's protected forest. It is a 7.5-mile round trip hike that takes you probably to the single best outlook in Bennington. You can see well above Manchester, Vermont. You can probably see really looking towards Burlington from the vantage point of White Rocks. But for someone with a modest to moderate level of hiking experience, this is a trail that a campus van or your bike, if you really wanted to do that, could bring you to within about 10 minutes. And you could have a really sweet half-day to full-day hike. Again, the important thing to stress here is that there is a lot of opportunity for the person interested in getting out and exploring. It's really as simple as sourcing your transportation from point A to point B. And most of these are no-charge opportunities that really give you a different sense of what the community at large, Bennington proper, has to offer. Does anyone have questions? Nothing. Anything else from your end, Sam?
I'm just curious if, because you're all fairly new to the campus, if you've done anything outside or recreational that we haven't mentioned that you think would be of benefit to the whole group. And it's totally okay if not. It's also super early in the term.
Hiking shoes. I will have to check with Allie on that. I'm not sure what hiking shoes, as far as like ankle high hiking boots, would look like in terms of availability. The other place we could look, though, as far as that goes, Leonie, is I'm happy to check with Ethan Cause Smith, who works for Student Life is a student, but has played a big role in keeping kind of a living, breathing thrift store, so to speak, happening on campus. You may have heard it referenced previously as TAPA or Bennington Thrift, something like that. But when we're not under COVID restriction, we usually do have a pretty active culture of gear and clothing swapping going on. Let me check with Ethan and I'll let you know. I can't say for sure, but we might have hiking shoes somewhere. With regard to borrowing tennis equipment, I believe we do have a selection of rackets and tennis balls. Again, rather than saying yes and then finding out no, let me connect with Allie to see what's happening there. Usually what happens is we store a lot of that equipment in the tennis shed that's out next to the tennis court and the soccer field, so you wouldn't actually get it from the rec barn. I want to say yes, but let me do a little homework and get back to you on that. If we don't have it, I'll say this, we could definitely acquire them because we should have them ready to go.
Yeah, and you'll see from time to time there will be some folks from off campus on the tennis courts. We allow the Bennington Tennis Center to use that space. And also, I think there are just some folks from off campus that do use it. You'll see a sign on the front. If you go there, you'll see a sign on the front of the cage around the tennis courts that says you have to reserve a time, and that is not for you. You can use that. You can use the tennis courts whenever you want. You do not have to reserve a time. That is for folks coming from off campus. So feel free to use the tennis courts whenever you want. And tennis is a really great activity right now that I've already seen a lot of students playing that thus far this fall. But tennis is a fun one that we can do for the most part right now. So great question. Yeah, and there was one I wanted to mention, one club actually that was it's sort of a club of one at the time. This was last year, but the swimming club, a student who swam their entire life wanted to start a swimming club, did so. And it was a club of one, but that student was able to compete in regionals and place really well. And we got them set up with a lot of resources to help them swim. Obviously, with COVID stuff, we can't really encourage use of the Bennington Rec Center pool right now. I can't even confirm that it's open. But that's where they would go and swim, and then they'd travel and compete. But I would just, that's all to say, if you're interested in something and you're like, well, maybe I'm the only one that's interested, it doesn't matter. Still reach out and we'll still really help do whatever we can to get you all the resources you need to do that activity or do whatever you want to do, even if it's just you. Badminton, great question. Well, generally on the lawn, there's a net set up for volleyball, which I know isn't a badminton net, but can be used one and the same. But right now we're not doing volleyball, so the net's not there. But we do have some badminton rackets. I don't know if we have a net currently. So so actually, when it's not the testing site, the student center last year grew into a really great, the lower level, into a really great little recreation location. So I'm sure you've all been for the testing, you've seen the basketball hoop. And there were lines on the ground for indoor soccer, for pickleball, and badminton, and all sorts of activities in there. And we'll continue to explore, because we have to use that for testing all throughout the term. We'll explore some other indoor spaces that maybe we can do some indoor badminton, but I will investigate a shorter net than the volleyball net, because it's kind of silly to play badminton on a huge net high up. But we'll explore, and feel free to follow up on that too. But I know we have some badminton rackets and all the equipment. Maybe not the net, but we'll look into it. Good question.
I'm going to ask one more question that I have for the group, because it's really nice to see student faces. So I am the advisor for the Programming and Activity Council student council that organizes late night weekend, typically always substance free, but substance free events that provide opportunities for students to connect. One of the longest running events we've always held that you may or may not have already heard about is Rollerama, which is we convert a couple spaces on campus into indoor roller rinks. For lots of reasons, COVID, right now, Rollerama is probably not realistic. However, we are sitting on 100 pair of roller skates. If I was to work on something that creates an outdoor space within a set time frame during the day for open hours, open skate hours, is that something you would be interested in? Doesn't look like a lot of positives, so I'm probably not going to follow through. No. Awesome. Yeah. I had a feeling that would be the answer. Again, there's legwork involved with it, but I know there's a really kind of perfect cul-de-sac in Vapa that could function really well as a circle for that space. Again, this would be on a limited basis, i.e. not everyone can be doing it at the same time. It may be 10 or 12 people simultaneously, masks required, social distance encouraged, all the crap you already know. However, if we can make use of that stuff, it would make me happy because it makes you happy. So I'm going to continue to work on that from the back end. Again, if you have questions, feel free to hit up Sam Clement or I. We're here to help you guys in all the ways we can. mscott@bennington.edu. Are you Sam Clement or S Clement?
S. Clement.
S Clement. Okay. And in the interim, be on the lookout for basically a personalized email from the Office of Student Engagement last week based on your survey results. Also to follow up with all of this information in an easily accessible format via PDF next week too. So if you don't have any other questions, we'll conclude early. No other questions. Fabulous. All right, so I think we're good to go. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you all so much for being
Enjoy the
here.
weather. We've got 80 degrees this weekend.
Do we need to fill out
Thank you.
What's up?
Hold on, there's a question.
fill out like any sort
Thank
of
you very much.
document or like reflection of this or anything, or
Not unless indicated by Sarah Harris or whomever you received your field work, your FYF invite through.
okay.
I don't think there is.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Thank you all.
I like your matching
Thank
shape,
you.
by the way.
Peace out.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Have a great
Thank
afternoon.
you.